Good evening. My name is Dr. Liam Clayton, one of the co-founders and directors here at Future-Proof Training Academy. I just wanted to make this video to go through some of the models and methodologies and theories that we use associated with all aspects of the business and the company, whether that is the daycare, behavioural consultancy, the training methodology, the classes and the industry education that we do. Everything is underpinned by certain principles and things that are guided by science. And it's based off the most up-to-date scientific information. And it's always evolving, as science does. And when science changes or when there's a new theory or approach, we will implement it, see if it does work. And if it does work, we incorporate that into application. Now, the purpose of this video is to focus solely on the methodologies that we do use, whether that's the model for One Health or whether that's the use of the behavioural triad in regards to the health of the animal itself. Now, if I share my screen, I can show you what I'm trying to say. Now, everything comes under the One Health model and the behavioural triad model. And now, firstly, before we go into those models, we need to really define what is animal welfare. Now, animal welfare is defined as the following: as an individual state in regards to its attempt to cloak an environment at a physiological, behavioural, and medical level through 1986. Now, that has evolved from what it was back in 1986 to what it is now. And as science evolves, the definition evolves. And one way to monitor welfare is measuring stress responses in different situations. However, stress can be a positive or negative. Positive experiences like play in a positive situation is a positive response, whereas a negative experience like overhandling and the dog shutting down is a negative response. Now, if we look at that model, there's always a positive and negative when we work with animals, and majorly focused on dogs. We want to focus on the welfare of these dogs and making sure that there is positive responses in their life, and if there are negatives, we need to shape and mold that away from that and move towards that positive side. Now, if animal welfare is defined as that, what is One Health? Now, One Health is the idea that the health of people is connected to the health of animals and our shared environment. Now, we incorporate that into our facility. We know that the health of our owners or even the clients that we work with are incorporated into the animal's health and dog's health. So they work in conjunction with each other. And that also works with the environment as well, whether that's the environment as a natural entity, or whether that's the environment that we are allowing the dog to be in, the environment that we want to enrich them in. We want to make sure that there's a happy balance between all of these things. And if there is a positive association with the dog and positive behavior, it reflects back in the owners as well, and the owners of these dogs, and it makes them fulfilled. So we want to incorporate all three aspects and make sure that if one is lacking and there's a certain anxiety-based issue with the canine, it can affect the owner. We want to work through that. Or if the needs and requirements of the canine is not fulfilled in a certain environment, they can come to us and we can help them through that. Now, the triad of health in non-human animals is there's three aspects to it. And the goal is and aims are to optimize all to ensure the welfare of canines in the environment. Now, the three aspects of it is physical and emotional and cognitive. Now, the physical is the physical health itself. The cognitive is the cognitive ability of the animal, and the emotional is emotional states and motivators behind what the animal is doing, what they're doing. If the emotional health is deteriorating, so can that affect physical and cognitive ability of the animal. We want a happy balance right in the center. We want to make sure that there are positive emotional states and an increase in cognitive health, physical. We want to make sure they all align. Now, what does that look like for canines? Well, if we base this off the new aspects of the needs and requirements of our canine health, based off the 5-domain model, we look at nutrition, environment, health, behavior, and mental domain, which comes under emotion. So nutrition and health comes under that physical aspect. Environment comes under that cognitive ability, but also it incorporates the emotional side as well. And then you have behavior and mental domains, which come under that cognitive and emotional state. Now, the previous model was based on 5 freedoms, which was just the basic of the animal. And it is expanded to the 5-domain model because it was a little bit more comprehensive than anticipated. And that's because as we evolve, so the companions that we choose. Now, we want to make sure each of these domains are in the positive conditions. Now, in regards to the nutritional aspect, we want to make sure that there is eating enough food, in a balanced diet, in a variety of food, correct quantities of food. Then we want to go into the physical environment. The physical is space for spontaneous locomotion, suitable substrates, but this model itself is based off numerous things. So you really want to look at the physical comfort, respiratory comfort, olfactory stimulation, thermal comfort, auditory comfort, visual comfort. You want to look at all the sensory conditions and making sure that they're at a comfort level and they're stimulating it. Health conditions, you want to make sure that the animal is in physical health. We do this by making sure that the needs are met for the dog, whether that's in daycare or in behavioural consultancy. We want to make sure that their physical health is in prime state, up-to-date vaccinations. They've had their annual vet check. There's no physical conditions that may be hindering them today. They're free from injury or diseases. And we want to make sure they're in good body conditioning scores as well. And they are in good maintenance, physical health and fitness. Now, if we look at the behavioural aspect, we want to make sure there's a varied, novel environment, interesting and pleasantly occupied. We have like sensory inputs, which will increase the novelty and create positive responses. We want calm and controlled interactions and engaging by activities and the ability to move freely around. We don't then want them condensed in an area, and that's what the zones in the facility are for. We want them exploring the environment and what is in the environment and causing that sensory enrichment, whether that's sand, whether that's water, whether it's rocks and barks and trees and pine cones. Now, when they're interacting with other animals, we want bonding and bonds associated with affection and sociability. We want play. We want excitement and playful nature. We want high sociability and a high playful nature. We want that in a controlled, structured manner. Now, we also want them to feel safe and secure and protected, confident in us. We want a human-animal bond with them, whether that's in daycare, whether that's in the behavioural consultancy itself, whether that's in behavioural assessments or the one-on-one training. We want them to make them feel that they are secure and in the secure attachment from their owners and themselves. We want them to have that secure attachment with us, hopefully. And interactions with humans. These are behaviours. We want to make sure that they are confident, caring, sensitive, patient, kind, and empathetic in our nature. But the animals' behaviours and positive effects, we want to make sure that they are easily interactive. We don't want that fear response or anxious response. We want to make sure that they're exploring the us and engaging with us in a positive manner. We want to make sure our voice is confident, calm, clear, and encouraging, pleasant. We don't want to be overburdening and negative, cruel, and shouting and loud. We want to make sure it's calm and effective. We make sure that all of our staff are trained by myself, the company, and are trained effectively in the areas of physical and emotional health. We want them also to engage with us, and we need to be skillful, gentle, rewarding, and we want the animal's behavior to be calm, confident, feel control, enjoys the interactions, finds being bonding with us in a positive manner. Now, how do we do this in regards to future-proof? Now, we do this by multisensory integration, and dogs take in information in a multisensory situation. They can have stimulus, they have taste, olfactory, vision, touch, physiology, sound, and pain. They take in all this information, and then they display the behavior. At the same time, they have an emotional state or output associated with that. And what we do is, what we want is to incorporate their physical and cognitive emotional needs. And their physical needs, we want to maintain their physical health and in the facility, whether daycare aspect, whether that's the behavioural aspect and training. We want to make sure that they're stimulated. Now, we want to make sure that they're stimulated by balanced acceleration, proprioception, especially in the environment and zones that we do for daycare. Now, cognitive. Now, we want sensory stimulation for their cognition, whether that's vision, olfactory, taste, touch, auditory, and cognitive enrichment. We do this by enriching the animal or the dog and making sure that they're using their senses, making sure that they're using the brain and working through puzzles and using the sample. And finally, we want emotional. Emotional health needs to be positive. We want to map out their emotional state and what state they're in. We want those positive behaviors associated with friendliness and sociability and low arousal and play interactions. We want their emotional motivators states to be fulfilled. And we want to figure out their emotional motivators. We know how they're driven. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to achieve in the behavioural side of things and using the environment to do that. Now, the next step is the environment. We want to make sure it's a controlled social interaction in the daycare and in the training that we do. We want to make sure there's controlled zones in daycare, controlled triggers, controlling the triggers, stimuli in the daycare so it doesn't overburden dogs to go into that negative state of fear and anxiety. We want to make sure that they're comfortable and relaxed, back to those five domain ones, making sure the behavioral met and their emotional states are met. Now we want to have a controlling and integrating smells into the environment, on structured downtime, so that they're recovering and they're being. Most dogs require a lot of sleep during the day, a lot more than most people know. And then we want sensory enrichment from the environment. We want to enrich them with smells, touch, taste. We want them to engage with us and the environment and other dogs. Sociability to us is not just about dog-dog sociability. It's a bit more complex than that. It's about the emotional needs and requirements of the dog, whether that's through cognitive enrichment, behavioural enrichment with us and other dogs, whether that's downtime and recovery. We want to make sure that the emotional needs and behavioural requirements of the dogs are met, whether that's the daycare and the training. We want to make sure when we are doing the behavioural training that we're shaping and moulding the dog into a confident and behaviorally stable behavioral repertoire. We want to make sure that they're going down the sequence of behaviors that are positive and not seeking out the fear and anxiety. If they are in those states, we want to move away from them, move back into those social and friendly states. We do that by shaping and capturing behaviors, work backwards. And we want to make sure that each dog has the ability to have those requirements of their emotional, physical needs met, especially in the behavioral aspect. It underpins everything that we do and everything that we try to achieve. And as science evolves, and that is in the doggy daycare aspect, making sure that the needs it, and in the social aspect, in enrichment, and then also in the behavioral aspect as well, making sure that behavioral problems start to be managed or training starts to be implemented, and behavior modification as well, and how we maintain their health as well. If you need extra medication, that is included in the situation as well, with the incorporation of veterinary help. And then in classes, making sure that we're setting up either puppies or even greyhounds or even rescue dogs, the ability to transition from a environment to make sure that the human-animal bond is built and owners understand that they have their own needs and these are the needs, and how do you read that from a behavioral perspective? And on the note of rescues, our background is excessively with rescues. So how do we incorporate rescue dogs into and integrate them back into society, into their new homes, making sure that the retention is there in the homes and they're not going back to shelters, making sure that owners understand that these dogs have a form of social isolation when they go to shelters, and they do become depressed, they have acute stress, they have behavioral changes, and their stability in what they used to know is not the same in the shelter. And certain problem behaviors and behavioral problems may manifest. And how, after they get integrated into their new home, how do we integrate them properly? And how do we educate the owners on increasing that human animal bond and making them feel safe and secure and not causing more behavioral problems to occur? So it was just wanted to be a quick video. It's probably ended up being a long video now. But just to talk about the models that we use and the basis of how we want to educate and fulfill the needs and educate owners, and making sure that the needs of the dogs are fulfilled. And hopefully there's a change in the approach from what has previously been done to where we're going now. Dogs aren't backyard dogs anymore. They're fur babies, they're children, they're part of the family. They are one of us, and we treat them like children. We treat them like family. We want their needs, requirements to be fulfilled, and we want to make sure that they have a happy life. And hopefully with time, we can do it.